Okay, so I'm going to do a couple clips here just to give you an idea on how I flake these different coral preforms. Okay, I've got a whole different set of some nice ones out here that I'm going to go ahead and make into points. So we'll go start to finish through all of these different preforms that I've got laid out. I'll probably break a few. We'll see what kind of problems I encounter, and we'll just go from there. Okay, a couple preparation tips before we even start to flake the preforms. One, try to make sure if you've got a grinder. I've got a little stained glass grinder I got from Hobby Lobby for about $100. If you've got a grinder that you can take and make one of these into more of an exact shape before you start, it's going to help you in the long run with the overall shape of that piece and the way it looks. So sometimes I used to get them kind of close and just go for it. At the end, you'll end up with a chunky spot in that area that was a little more than you wanted. So try to shape them up. I try to do it before I send them to people, but again, you can't get them perfect sometimes. So just try to shape them up if you've got that ability. If not, go ahead and make sure that before you start, take an abrader, and you want to go ahead and go at all sides just to make sure, again, you got some nice rock dust on there, and make sure there's no slick spots, because when you're doing this, a lot of times you've got one chance out of it, and sometimes you can, I don't know, it feels like you're always correcting mistakes, like boom, boom, mistake, how do we correct that? I'm sure as you get better, that goes away, but I find that's a lot of flint napping. You're constantly correcting the mistake you just made and going from there, so the plan's always changing. But I'll go ahead and do both sides, and then I'll go ahead and not overly abrade, but I'll go ahead and do just a nice little pass right on these. I don't want to round them off too much, but I want to make sure nothing's gonna fall off before I actually go at it, okay? So this guy, it's July 4th today. It's a little red, white, and blue pinhead coral. See if we can't make that into something. Secondly, okay, this is the Ishii stick that I use. It's a 20-inch Ishii with, I could look it up if you need to, basically a large diameter copper piece in there, copper rod. So it's not the size you use for indirect percussion, but it's the largest size they put in the Ishii stick. So what I've done is I've already hammered this. I go ahead and put it on a piece of steel and hammer it on all four sides, go around a couple times till I kind of have a taper on there, and then I take the file and I go ahead and I'll do all four sides again, just to get, we're not getting a point like a nail, but we are getting a point on it, I'll show you in a minute, where you can get a small piece of that preform and take it off. And you kind of need this to be a little bit sharp on the end, and we're not talking sharp like it's going to poke through, but just not rounded off. And let me jump around the back side of the camera here, and let's see, boom. All right, so you kind of see this. I've got four sides on it as I rotate it. They might not be the most even, but you get an idea of the diameter of that. Okay, and then we look this way, and you can kind of see we've got a little tip, but it's a little flat on the end. It's not like a sharp nail. The other side I usually leave a little more blunted, and I'll use that later when we're doing the edging. So right now we're sticking with this side, okay? So now we've got the stone prepped. We have our tool prepped. Something else I'll point out is I like to use a finer abrading stone, not those big thick ones that I'd maybe use if I'm spalling and doing percussion work. This one's not gonna rip a chunk off of this preform. It is gonna give you some good dust. All right, we'll continue this in the next clip. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start in on this nice piece of pinhead here. We just roughed up the edges. Again, using a kind of a fine abrading stone. There's different grades of these. Just wanna make sure you've got it nice and white and you got some little chalk coming off on your finger. That's gonna let that piece of copper stick real good. And we just sharpened up that piece of copper, so we ought to be good to go. Now, I don't see a flaw on either side, so I don't think it really matters which side we're going to start on. So we'll just go ahead and start. I got this from I can give you notes on it. One of the gentlemen on the Flint Knapping forum. Really awesome hand pad. I've actually worn through all these, and I've kind of worn through the leather on the bottom because I've been using the heck out of this. I probably made 50 points with it. And with coral, this stuff's hard, so I'm really putting a lot of force into it, not like maybe obsidian, where I'd be blowing across the whole piece. So go ahead and put this on. I'm also going to wear a glove because, like I said, I just recently poked through the bottom of this, and I'm going to have to buy a new one. I'll be a cheapskate for now. All right, here we go. Now, I don't start right at the end of the preform. Okay, you could, sorry, let me get this on here. Some people would probably maybe, I don't know, start right at the very tip. I don't do that. I do the very tip last because you could probably just blow it right off. Pretty easy to start, and I think it's easier. I don't need to do a little baby stroke right off the bat. I like to start in maybe ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch into the piece, and then work the piece, and then I'll do the tip at the very end. That's just maybe not even right, but that's how I do it, okay? So to start, I'm gonna place this again. I think I have a marker here, so we'll do this since we're trying to educate. There's a pencil. So go ahead, and I've got it lined up right here where I'm gonna get it. And we'll go ahead and take the first flake right there, okay? So we're not gonna do it right on the edge. We're gonna go in a little, and then I'm gonna move it down, and we're gonna take the next flake right about there. Okay, probably. Let me do the first one, I'll come back. Not as important to push so hard on the first flake because we've only got to travel a short distance, but on each one I want to try to at least make it to the halfway point on the piece. So the first pass for me, I try to clear both faces. That's just the way I learned and the way I think it ends up with a better looking end product for myself. All right, I've got it on the spot, and we're gonna push in, and I like to use my leg when we need more force. And I kind of have this wedged under my arm so I can really get my shoulder in it. It's not my wrist or anything creating the force. I'm pushing into the piece and I'm snapping down. Okay, and you could hear that snap. The flake just fell off. But we got a nice removal of the flake there. You can kind of see the outline of it, okay? Now I'm just gonna move on down. We don't want to do it right beside that first one because this went all the way out here. So this one, we're gonna move down and we're gonna shoot here. And it's gonna take this piece off and then this piece. You stack them up too close and you end up running into each other. So make sure you leave a little bit of distance in between there. First 3 flakes were all the way down to here already. I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side and clear this. That snap is what you want to hear. Snap. You don't want to go into it lightly. Follow through. Pushing in, snapping down. Going good so far, but there's always problems as the piece gets wider. Maybe not always, but a lot of times. All right, we got a pretty good pattern going on right now. There we go. You can see where we did 3 flakes down this side And I came back to this side and cleared them off. Off, off, off. This actually ran into the little delta here that's going to come off. And then this one went pretty much halfway. So we're just going to go back to this side and take this off, this off. If we can keep going past halfway, we can keep going down. But if we get to a point where it runs a little short, I like to switch sides so that you have a chance of clearing just a little over halfway and clearing the whole piece. Seems like if you go short, your next one goes even shorter, and your next one goes even shorter, unless you really put a lot of force into it. So if you go short a little bit on one, switch sides and then start taking them from that next side. Okay, so just so this doesn't take forever on tape, I went ahead and I did the rest of it. You can see, cleared the entire face. You can see there's a little bit of stuff here, but again, that's because we're on a flat face, and that's flakes running into flakes, and it's real hard on a flat face to come exactly the same, you know, millimeter in and hit the other flake and not leave any of this stuff. So sometimes you'll get it perfect, sometimes you won't, but this will come off on the second pass, the vast majority of it. So I just flaked all the way down. If you come up short here in the middle, okay, then you just keep going down, and you go down this side, and you leave yourself a nice little island there. What I like to do is go all the way down and leave that island. Don't flake anything up from here yet, okay? After you grind these down and take your second pass, it will have even more convexity, and if you don't hit them on that pass, you'll have a ridge right there, and you can just flute it right off a lot of times. So this side's all done. You see how the little tip still has a little bit to go? You can see right there. So I'm going to flake that off real quick, and then I'm going to flip it over, and we'll do the same to that side. Looking good so far. All right, so we got both sides flaked now. If I can keep this in focus. Some beautiful rock. A little red, white, blue, probably some orange in there. But no complaints, okay? Completely flaked. You can kind of see on the side. Try to space them out even. Sometimes if I push a little hard and you got a wider flake, then you're going to have to go a little bit further over so you don't run into that previous flake. So if you want a really tight flake pattern, sharpen that flaker down really sharp, and on the second pass just do them really sharp and really close, and you'll have tiny flakes all the way up the side. So that's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind off all these deltas on all four sides. So here, 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 here. Again, this is, you could really do it with an abrading stone on obsidian or something. I'm not going to lie to you, coral's too hard. You'd sit out here for like 2 days. If you had a little native kid, you know, in your village back in the day, yeah, you could have sent him into the corner with one of these and said, hey, rub on that rock for 3 days. But you can't do that, you know, it's too much now. So I just go up to my stained glass grinder, and I'll go ahead and grind this off with a little diamond wheel and this. And then I'll go ahead and do a second pass on, you know, all four sides there. After that, you got a nice thin point. You got a nice convexity in the point, and then it's usually thin enough that it's not too hard to do some notching down here. Okay, so I just ground down those deltas. You really want it smooth like this and like this, and I kind of went quick, and I didn't get these perfect, but it's going to work. Go ahead and this, you can see there's a little bit higher. See this fingernail right here? Well, when we take this off, that's going to come off clean. All this stuff is going to come off clean. And I don't know about that little one right there, but we'll shoot a flake up there, a couple of them, and we'll see if we can get this off. So this side pretty much the same. If you take your time, I've got an old little diamond wheel on it right now, but if you take your time, you can get them all ground down perfectly like this. But again, for the video, I've done enough of these. I think this is going to work. So after I ground all that down, then I went ahead and set a platform edge on this. So it's curved. Let me see if I can do this. It's slightly curved down towards, so like out this way. So when we take our first set of flakes, we're going to go ahead and take them off of here and do this whole side first, because this is tapered a little towards that side, and it'll make the flakes come off easy. On the next side, I'll taper that the other way so it goes off of this side. All right. So if I can find the preform I just ground. Oh, it's in my pocket. All right. Let's try that again. All right. So we got our ground preform. We already did one pass on each side. Got the deltas off. Got to go ahead and make sure there's nothing crazy going on here. If there's a flaw, it'll come off right there, and that way when you're, again, putting force into the rock, you don't have a failed attempt that leaves a hinge. Big thing to remember here is if you push a couple times and your flaker keeps slipping, you don't have the platform right on here, okay? It's like this right now. If you keep pushing and it just won't take a flake, set your platform a little more. Don't break the whole preform in half trying to push that flake across. Which again, it happens. Especially now, we're thin, we're getting thin. The slab started thin, we're getting even thinner. One more thing, I'm gonna go ahead and sharpen this up again, because we've got even a smaller area for our platform now that we've ground this down, and our preform, you know, is roughly 1/3 the thickness that we started. Probably do a couple passes on this just to make sure I get that nice and sharp. All right, looks pretty good to me. And let me put this glove on real quick. Sorry, I'm not the video professional here, but I think you get the gist of how this is going. All right, so just rough the whole thing up. Again, I'm not gonna start at the tip. I'm gonna start in just a little bit, just like we did the last time. And I'm gonna start on the worst side. So right here, we got where this came all the way across and it kind of hinged right here on the other side. I'm gonna take that hinge off first, so that when we run another flake off here, it doesn't just run into the hinge again. Just remove that hinge. Getting attacked by gnats out here. Again, we're pushing in, snapping down. That one failed a little bit, okay? It just went in just a little bit. It didn't remove what I wanted, so I'm gonna go down just a little bit more, and we're gonna see if we can take this off this way. Yep, you heard the snap, came right off. Left a couple little mini hinge flakes in there, but not too bad unless you're a perfectionist like me. It does bother you. I'm not wearing safety glasses right now, but what I actually do is right before I do it, I rough this up a little more. Right before I actually take my flake, it's not going anywhere. I shut my eyes and then I do it. My safety glasses are a little foggy, and out here in Florida is constantly fogging up and getting kind of hard to see through. And when you're working these small platforms, you really need to see where you're sticking the end of that stick. Don't need your eyes open to know that flake came off. Sometimes flake or something like this leather pad, it's going to go into the leather, and you get a little piece of leather on the end of that copper. Get it off. Don't just take the chance, because again, one chance you mess it up. So make sure you've always got that good little tip that's going to snap crack will pop this thing right off of here. All those, snap, snap, snap. Okay, so now you kind of get an idea here. If we focus, looks really clear. It's gonna look even better once we edge it. The only thing that happened is right here, came at a little weird angle. Instead of coming off, it just kind of dug in a little bit there in the center. And I could probably pick these off later because this was all clean before, so it's not like it's got a sawed edge on it. But I also, when I take this side off, it might completely go over and take that off as well. So I just did that. I'm gonna do the rest of it on that side, and then we'll come back. All right, so this was the original first side. I went ahead and flaked, and again, like I said, I got into a little bit of trouble right there. I'll try to pick some of that crap off, but other than that, once I scrub this down a little bit, it should look pretty good. We're all our worst critics, and I hate when I see little things like that. But the other side came out really nice. Hardly any kind of little debris on there. And I feel like in my head, at least, if I had a grinder and I went in and ground these things first and just did a straight fog on them, that I would eliminate some of those problems. But I might still have it. So that's the piece. I'm gonna go ahead and edge it now. If I can get this to focus. Doesn't want to focus for some reason. There we go. So we've got a really thin edge now. I'm gonna start at the tip, and I'm gonna pop it down. Basically break it off, not the whole tip. Go about halfway in, pop it down, flip it, pop it down again, and then just start going down one side. Down, pop, pop, pop. Zigzag all the way down that edge, around the back, and then down this other edge. That'll leave us with a nice preform, completely flaked, sharp edge, and then we can go ahead and go at it and put some notches in it. All right, so I just edged the preform. Trying to keep it in focus here, but you can kind of see got a nice sharp edge on it now. There you go. You can see a little bit of little ripples here at the edge from those platforms, but if you were to touch that, oh baby, it's sharp. So that's where we're at. I got the base nice and thin. I'm going to make this one into a Hillsborough with a little kind of a triangular center point of the stem. I'll just knock that out real quick. Shouldn't take long at all because these don't go in very long. And because it's already pretty thin, use this notcher, this other notcher. And again, it's just a little thinner, a little easier because it's in your hand. And right here is, it's not real sharp. It's just kind of rounded off at the end. And we're just looking for it to grip and pop down. We're just gonna kind of basically zigzag the bottom until we get where we wanna be. Kind of did the first pass, got the little center of the stem kind of started there, and now of course it's beveled that way, so we're going to flip it and we're going to go the other direction. I am going to throw these on real quick because I need to see what I'm doing, but it's not precise work. At this point, don't pop an ear off. Start at the ear and work your way in. Start at the ear, work your way in. Still looking for that snap. Just like on the rest of it, snap. You don't want to just scrape the flake off. You want to snap it off. Getting really careful near the ears, because that's really the spot you would mess one of these up, is if you blew an ear off. I'm going to kind of make this a batwing Hillsborough, so they have nice tapered wings on it. Ooh, getting attacked by bugs out here. Yay, Florida. That's how we do it. Alright, now a lot of times I like to make a Hillsborough point like that, where I've just got the little a little mini square stem. But if you know what these points are, like I do, a lot of times the real ones will actually also have a triangular. There's a couple different forms. So this one I'm gonna go ahead and make that base triangular, but I like to still square it off first and then go into the triangle, so you don't just blow it off, because once you have that little spike, if you blow it off, it's real weird looking. You got to bring the whole point up a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to do right now. It's starting to rain, but it shouldn't take too long. All right. Now little finishing touches here. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so let's take her out here and see what we got. All right, and here we go, finished Hillsborough style point out of heat treated pinhead coral. Happy 4th of July.
Thanks a lot for watching my video. I hope you found it informative.